All right, we're firing up the grill for a true classic today, the Sociology burger. We are about to unpack the absolutely massive ideas of one of sociology's greatest master chefs.
And no, don't worry, we haven't suddenly become a food review channel. Sociology Burger is just our fun way of digging into the incredible conceptual menu of one of the 20th century's most influential thinkers, Robert K. Merton. His ideas have, well, they've seasoned our understanding of society in ways you probably don't even realize.
So, let's meet the chef behind this whole conceptual cuisine. Robert King Merton wasn't just another sociologist. He was more like an architect who literally designed a whole new way for us to understand the social world.
So Merton, who was actually born Meyer-Skolnick, had this incredibly long and distinguished career. I mean, he got his PhD from Harvard, where he was studying under absolute giants like Talcott Parsons. Then he spent nearly 4 decades at Columbia University, really becoming a central figure in the entire field. His work was so foundational that in 1994 he got the U.S. National Medal of Science. That's the country's top academic honor, so you know he was a big deal.
Okay, now for the signature dish on our menu, the one Merton is an absolute rock star for. We're calling it the Anomie burger, and trust me, it's a powerful recipe for understanding why people sometimes bend, or just completely break, society's rules.
So what in the world is anomie? Well, Merton saw it as this huge gap, this structural strain between the goals a society tells you that you should want, wealth, success, the good life, and the legit, socially acceptable ways to actually get there. Think of it like a giant societal pressure cooker. Everybody is told to go chase the American dream, but the system, well, it doesn't exactly give everyone a fair shot. That tension, that feeling of strain, that's anomie.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. Merton mapped out all the different ways people respond to this pressure. He called them modes of adaptation. Now, most people fall into conformity. They accept the goals and they accept the means. They play the game by the rules. But others adapt differently. Innovators still want the goal, like money, but they use illegitimate means to get it. Think crime. Ritualists kind of give up on ever getting rich, but they still rigidly stick to the rules, just going through the motions of their 9-to-5 job. Retreatists reject both the goals and the means, basically dropping out of society altogether. And finally, you have the rebels, who reject the whole system and try to create a new one. It's just a brilliant and incredibly neat way to categorize deviance.
This really shows how Merton upgraded the theories of his mentors. So think of it like this. An older view saw society as a perfect clock, where every single gear worked together in perfect harmony. Merton came along and pointed out that, hey, sometimes a gear can grind, or create friction, or even break the whole machine. That grinding, that's what he called dysfunction. For example, a bureaucracy is designed for efficiency. That's its function. But it can also lead to soul-crushing red tape. That's its dysfunction. It was a much more realistic view of how society actually works, with all its messy, imperfect parts.
All right, let's move on to the next section of our menu. It turns out Merton wasn't just interested in deviance, he was also basically the founder of the modern sociology of science, taking a hard look at how the scientific community itself operates.
He came up with what he called the scientific ethos, which are essentially the 4 ideal house rules for science. Universalism means it doesn't matter who you are, it only matters if your data is solid. Communism, and he did not mean this politically, means that scientific knowledge should be shared openly with everyone. Disinterestedness means scientists are supposed to be searching for truth, not just for personal gain. And organized skepticism means every single claim has to be questioned and tested. This is the ideal code of conduct that keeps science honest.
But here's the thing, Merton was also a total realist. He identified what he called the Matthew effect, where simply put, the famous get more famous. In science, a paper from a well-known researcher gets way more attention and citations than an identical paper from some unknown scientist. I mean, we see this everywhere today, right? A tweet from a celebrity gets millions of views, while the same idea from an ordinary person just disappears. It's a classic cycle of accumulated advantage.
Okay, this next concept is just beautifully ironic. Obliteration by incorporation. It's what happens when an idea becomes so famous, so commonplace, that people completely forget who even came up with it. The idea is so successful that it becomes anonymous. And as we're about to see, this happened to Merton himself, over and over and over again.
Case in point, the self-fulfilling prophecy. Come on, we all use this term, right? Well, it's Merton's.
He defined it as a false belief that triggers a behavior that in turn actually makes that false belief come true. The classic example is if there's a rumor that a bank is failing, everyone panics and withdraws their money, which then causes the bank to actually fail. It's a hugely powerful concept that's been completely absorbed into our everyday language.
So as we get ready to pay the check, what's the final bill? Just how immense is the intellectual debt that we owe to Robert Merton?
Well, his contribution was just vast. Beyond self-fulfilling prophecy, he gave us concepts like reference group, the group we compare ourselves to, and the crucial difference between manifest functions, which are the intended consequences of something, and latent functions, the unintended ones. These aren't just academic terms. They are practical tools cooked up in Merton's theoretical kitchen that we now use all the time to understand our own lives.
What really made Merton a modern classic was his unique style. He used what he called paradigms, not in the same way Thomas Kuhn did, but as these incredible frameworks to bring order and clarity to really messy social realities. He wasn't just throwing ideas out there. He was building these elegant, logical structures to help us all see society just a little more clearly.
So if you want to take some of these ideas to go, and if this whole explainer just whetted your appetite, these books are a fantastic way to do a much deeper dive. They really get into the life and work of a true master of sociology.
And that brings us to the end. So, I'll leave you with a question to chew on. Whether it's the pressure of anomie, the power of a self-fulfilling prophecy, or maybe the Matthew effect you see playing out online every day, which one of Merton's concepts best explains a part of your own social world? Think about it. Thanks for watching.